What's up, guys? Hope y'all are having a great day today, just full of so much positivity and happiness, dude, because I have a feeling there's not going to be too much of that to be found in this video. I mean, I guess depending on how you're looking at it, because we are going to be talking about the downfall and just complete and total destruction of one of the greatest video game publishers of the industry, and what used to be one of my personal favorite video game publishers back in the Xbox 360 generation, and that, of course, is none other than Ubisoft. You know, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I, as a child, used to look forward to every upcoming Ubisoft release, whether it be a new Ghost Recon game, a new Splinter Cell game, the annualized Assassin's Creed game, or a new Far Cry, you name it. Ubisoft actually put out some of the best games of the Xbox 360 era, and some of my favorite video games of all time during that period, but their fall from grace over the past 10-ish years has been absolutely monumental, to the point where they're basically completely unrecognizable to where they used to be, just recycling the same open world garbage with a fresh coat of paint over and over and over and over again, filled with technical issues, just overall mediocre slop for the most part. Ubislop is a very fitting name for the majority of the games that they put out. Now, they do put out the occasional game like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which is actually a breath of fresh air in their long lineup of boring-ass open-world action-adventure games with a stupid checklist open-world system, so they do have some shining gems in their massive pile of shit every once in a while, but it is few and far between these days. Personally, I have not enjoyed a Ubisoft game really since, I want to say, Assassin's Creed Unity, which even then wasn't amazing because it's what introduced the level-based combat into the Assassin's Creed formula, and ever since then, it has kind of gone downhill further and further, becoming completely unrecognizable to what the franchise used to be. But that's mainly the main theme of anything surrounding Ubisoft. It's a once great company or once great franchises that are in an absolute state of decay. Now, there has been a ton of negative news coming out about Ubisoft, and honestly, I kind of wanted to wait a little while before I started making videos on this because I wanted to touch on just like the timeline here. So our first event I want to look at here happened when Yves Guillemot, hopefully I said that right, had an earnings call with investors and basically had some comments regarding Star Wars Outlaws ahead of launch, and he said what we're factoring in is a strong launch for Star Wars Outlaws. That's the fact that it's among the most awaited games of the industry this year and reflecting a really strong positive community sentiment, and also the fact that we're coming with the biggest marketing campaign ever so far for a Ubisoft game. Now, I don't know what the hell he was smoking on the lead up to release for this game, but there was not an overwhelmingly positive community sentiment surrounding this game in the slightest. Everyone had been criticizing just how hideous the character model of the main character looked and just how weird and uncanny it was, because the model that they used for the character looks absolutely amazing, like she's hot, but then look at the fucking disgusting creature that emerged after the facial scans were done. So there was a massive controversy surrounding it. It looked like more generic Ubislop on the lead up to launch. The takedowns and stealth gameplay looked comical at best, and pretty much all the previews for it were overwhelmingly negative for the most part that I saw. And, well, when the game actually came out, that all materialized, and it's not surprising that it didn't do very well. Now, I did review the game, so if you want to check that out, it's up on the channel. I was not a fan whatsoever. Almost nothing about this game is good. It was filled with technical issues and bugs. I had game-breaking issues where I literally couldn't do quests. I mean, the game was a buggy, broken, Ubislop pile of shit. So, yeah, nothing new there, but in this particular instance, it was a lot worse, actually, than the majority of Ubisoft releases by modern standards. So, this game was absolutely horrible. It did not have a strong, positive community sentiment whatsoever, and, well, it turns out that was reflected when sales started to roll in. So, fast forward to September 25th, 5th, and Ubisoft admits that Star Wars Outlaws underperformed. And this is a statement that was put out by Ubisoft, and it says, despite solid ratings, Metacritic 76, and user scores across first-party and Epic stores, 3.9 out of 5, that reflect an immersive and authentic Star Wars universe, Star Wars Outlaws' initial sales proved softer than expected, Ubisoft said. Now, I don't really think we need to point out the obvious bias that's in this sample of reviews, especially on the user side of things, because most people who might have been interested in this game, I think were already turned off by the previews, gameplay, and controversy leading up to launch. So the only people who were like reviewing this game are people who were already extremely positive regarding it. So it's not really surprising that the user score is not completely in the trash, but still, a 3.9 equates to a 7.8. So it's not setting the world on fire by any stretch of the imagination. So a 76 and a 7.8 for a game with the largest marketing budget in Ubisoft history is not exactly an absolute epic victory royale like they expected it would be. But the quote continues and it says, in response to player feedback, Ubisoft development teams are currently fully mobilized to swiftly implement a series of updates to polish and improve the player experience in order to engage a larger audience during the holiday season to position Star Wars Outlaws as a strong, long-term performer. Now, this comes in addition to the news that they would actually be porting the game over to Steam in November as a last-ditch effort to try and drum up some interest in this absolute failure of a title, but I don't really think it's going to have the reaction they want to, especially when Steam users find out. You're still going to have to download the Ubisoft launcher if you want to play this game, which is always a point of contention when it comes to the Steam community, so I don't really think this is going to move the needle too much for them. I don't think Star Wars Outlaws is going to have any sort of long-term interest until it hits the bargain bin at $10 to $20 per copy. But in addition to this news, on the exact same day, it was announced that Assassin's Creed Shadows was delayed until 2025 in February, and they also decided to ditch the traditional season pass model, as well as launching the game day and date on Steam, which is the first time they've done that for a game in I don't know how many years. So obviously pre-orders were not looking very good. Obviously Star Wars Outlaws was a massive loss for the company, and they needed some dramatic change in order to try and fix this shit, in order to salvage the financial returns from these two titles, because obviously things were not looking very good on their end. Now, they did put out a statement that said, while Assassin's Creed Shadows was feature complete, the learnings from the release of Star Wars Outlaws led us to provide additional time to further polish the title. Star Wars Outlaws had a softer than expected launch, Ubisoft said. This will enable the biggest entry in the franchise to fully deliver on its ambition, notably by fulfilling the promise of our dual protagonist adventure with Naue and Yasuk, bringing two very different gameplay styles, Ubisoft said. So yeah, this is basically our pre-orders were extremely low. We're going to try and save that by porting the game to Steam and launching it day and date there. We're going to use the next 3 months post what should have been launched in order to try and advertise this game and drum up interest and maybe get it out of the very crowded holiday season to salvage what we can of this game that we thought was going to be an absolute home run. Now, of course, Assassin's Creed Shadows is surrounded, no pun intended, by a shadow of controversy regarding the Black Samurai main character, also with a lot of cultural appropriation accusations by the Japanese, where Ubisoft hired a very, very controversial Japanese historian, and I say that very lightly, who has been caught and exposed flat out lying and embellishing history surrounding Yasuk, which he got fired from his job at a Japanese university over. On top of that, they made replica swords for Assassin's Creed Shadows that were literally ripped from One Piece, like advertising them as authentic samurai swords. And on top of that, they recently just showed off a figure of Yasuk standing in front of basically this iconic gate from the Nagasaki nuclear site where the bomb was dropped. So yeah, this already controversial, culturally appropriating character was standing basically in front of hallowed ground in Japan, mocking the nuclear bomb victim. So dude, you really can't make this up. The Japanese are absolutely butchering this game, and it's been an absolute PR shitstorm, which is just so fitting because these woke retards that constantly try to, you know, virtue signal and all this type of shit, all always are the ones who expose themselves as the real racist or insensitive ones, and, you know, it honestly couldn't happen to a better company, especially when you consider Ubisoft is literally the company that birthed Sweet Baby Inc. So, again, it couldn't happen to a better company at this point, but yeah, Assassin's Creed Shadows was delayed to February 2025, and in that same announcement, the CEO, Yves Guillemot, I think I said that right, came out with another absolute gem and said, finally, let me address some of the polarized comments around Ubisoft lately. I want to reaffirm that we are an entertainment-first company, creating games for the broadest audience possible, and our goal is not to push any specific agenda. We remain committed to creating games for fans and players that everyone can enjoy. Now, isn't that interesting, man? I mean, that is absolutely wild to me that Ubisoft has the audacity to come out and say that their games don't push any specific agenda, when literally, if you rewind time to another game I reviewed, Avatar's Frontier of Colonialism, which I forgot what the actual name is, that's just what I've called it for so long, but basically, that game opened up with a Christopher Columbus diss. So, this entire fucking notion that they don't push a political agenda is laughable at fucking best. Ubisoft, for over a decade, has been loading their games up with woke bullshit, more so than most modern AAA video game companies could ever fucking dream to. There is a reason why Sweet Baby Inc. was literally launched by former Ubisoft employees, because those are the type of people that they have working on their games in the first place. So this statement is absolutely hilarious and shows you that Ubisoft has their tail tucked between their legs, because they are genuinely worried about the financial status and survivability of their company if things continue on at this rate. Apparently, the boycotts or just ignoring the Ubislop in this instance is actually working and is putting a genuine hurt on them. Because just you wait, guys, there's one more thing that happened on this very notable day for Ubisoft. And basically, the Ubisoft CEO came out and said that essentially gamers are to blame for Ubisoft games underperforming because we expect just way too much, man. You know, we as customers have too high of expectations for poor old Ubisoft to ever realistically meet with games like Star Wars Outlaws, and that's the reason why they're forced to delay Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm sure no other reason, right? But anyway, basically, again, the CEO, Yves Guillemot, says, in today's challenging market, and with gamers expecting extraordinary experiences, delivering solid quality is no longer enough. I didn't know Ubisoft ever did that recently, but, you know, I guess we learn something every day. We must strive for excellence in all aspects of our work. This will enable the biggest entry in the Assassin's Creed franchise to fully deliver on its ambition, notably by fulfilling the promise of our dual protagonist adventure with Naue and Yasuke, bringing two very different gameplay styles. Now, yes, you know, it's just so hard for poor old Ubisoft in the modern gaming landscape to actually put out something that exceeds a, you know, just solid performance, because they are so consistent. But that is all that happened on September 25th. Now, we fast forward 5 days, and some of the most hilarious news comes out, which I did not see this until I started doing research for this video, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me. But if you thought Star Wars Outlaws was going to be a massive failure, you would be absolutely right, because Star Wars Outlaws apparently has only sold 1 million copies a month after launch. Now, this is beyond catastrophic. I don't think I could tell you how bad that is, because just for example, in this article it says that Assassin's Creed Mirage had sold 5 million copies in 3 months. This game has not even sold 1 in its first month after launch, which is when the game should be selling the most after release. So that is insane to think about, because they had to pay, I guarantee you, a ton of money to get this Star Wars license, and Disney, as we know from the Marvel deal that Sony has with them, demands a certain number of unit sales, or else you face massive financial penalties as a result. So this game was absolutely absolutely catastrophic for Ubisoft beyond what I think anybody would have expected. Like, 1 million sales is wild, guys. Like, that is absolutely terrible. So again, I don't really know how the CEO of Ubisoft thought that there was strong positivity in the community surrounding this game on the lead up to launch, unless, you know, he was in his little Twitter echo chamber. But that is absolutely mind-blowing, man. This is arguably a bigger flop than Concord in a lot of cases, because I guarantee you the budget and the marketing budget for this probably was larger than Sony's absolute failure with Concord. But dude, it's Star Wars. That is how far not only the Star Wars IP has fallen, but just how bad Ubisoft is at making games that people are interested in anymore. And it's no wonder that they're sounding the doomsday alarm, which brings us to our next piece of news. Now, in recent days, the Ubisoft stock has been absolutely plummeting recently, and for good reason. The games have been absolutely flopping, they're not making money like they should be, and shareholders are losing confidence in the leadership surrounding the company. And basically, there is a new call for Ubisoft to be purchased by Tencent and the Guillemot family, buying out shareholders so that they can recover some of their money that they have invested with Ubisoft, so that in case of a mass sell-off, everybody doesn't completely lose their ass as the company's stock slowly goes down to zero. But basically, Tencent Holdings is considering a possible buyout of Ubisoft Entertainment with the Guillemot family, which founded the French video game publisher. Bloomberg reported Friday, sending Ubisoft stocks soaring after falling to a decade low. Ubisoft shares increased more than 31% to just over 14 euros, about $15.35 as of around 11 a.m. Friday. Tencent and the Guillemot brothers, a holding company run by members of Ubisoft's founding family, have held discussions about acquiring Ubisoft, though those considerations are at an early stage. People familiar with the matter told Bloomberg both companies are considering taking Ubisoft private if a transaction does go through, the people said. Tencent, which purchased nearly 50% of Guillemot brothers in 2022, holds 9.2% of the Ubisoft net voting rights or power in voting by shareholders, while the Guillemot family has about 20.5%, according to Ubisoft's latest annual report. And Ubisoft did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Forbes. So this is pretty big news, man. Ubisoft could be changing hands, because that's just how little faith the, you know, shareholders, which are the actual owners of the company, have and the current trajectory of the company. So if we're seeing these disastrous numbers, I can only imagine what they're seeing behind the scenes that we're not allowed to see, because this has got to be absolutely catastrophic for a publicly traded company that has been around as long as Ubisoft has to go private in order to, you know, save it in a last-ditch effort. So this is not a good sign whatsoever, and the future of Ubisoft is definitely not looking bright. Now, maybe Tencent can turn it around, but I don't know, man. I feel like Ubisoft is just kind of cooked at this point. I think people are tired of their games. The only thing that really makes them money anymore is Assassin's Creed, and then, of course, the residual income coming in from Rainbow Six Siege, which continuously gets more woke, which pushes more players away who have been playing it for a very long time. And it's just an evolving market, and Ubisoft has failed to adapt. They keep shoveling out the same Ubislop over and over and over again. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. Regardless, Ubisoft is not in a good place. It looks like Star Wars Outlaws was absolutely catastrophic for them, and Assassin's Creed Shadows seems like it's going to suffer from the same problem. Like, if you would have told me 10 years ago that an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan was having issues surrounding getting people interested, I would have called you an absolute crazy person. But it's 2024, almost 2025, and the state of the modern gaming industry is anything but sensical. So here we are, guys. You know, I hope you enjoy your Western AAA gaming slop, because I sure as fuck am. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on this entire situation in the comment section below. Is Ubisoft cooked, or do they have a genuine chance for a comeback here? I'm definitely interested to hear your take on this particular topic, and if you made it to the end of this video, make sure to drop a like on it. I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, guys, I do want to thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to check out this video, and for all the recent support as well. You guys are the fucking best, and I really do appreciate it. So with that shit said, I will catch you guys next time.